Mute.
Unique New York.
New York. I can't do that one that easily. Nope.
The arsonist has oddly shaped feet. All right, how do I always forget how to send out the DMs.
Lock it.
What's up, Jen? So, do this every time. What's up, Jamie? What's up, Katy?
Good to hear from you, Mark.
Same, Jamie. Thank you. Katy, how's it going on your end?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Excellent. I had requested to speak, and then you made me co-host, and it messed up my phone for a second. I was like, oh no! So we're all set here.
Awesome. Good. We got Katy. We got Jamie. Rob's in. Thank you for jumping in, Rob. Oscar, I just sent you the invite. So if you can accept that and make sure your microphone's on, we'll wait till you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this broadcast, hearing both you guys. This should be a good one.
Yeah, same here, man. I've had a few conversations with Oscar. Really good guy. Really excited to hear what he has to say. Jamie, man, thanks for bringing that kid in. Looked like he.
Oh, he's a good dude, and his schedule is crazy. I mean, he's going up to North Dakota. He's in Kansas. He's going to all sorts of wrestling camps. So, if he would love to be with us more often, just to get some more different looks at people. But his schedule is real hectic. But he's just a really nice kid. I've known him since he was like 11 years old, and he's grown up to be a really good person.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to work with him a little bit. But it looks like he had some fun on the mat, so that's very good.
Yeah.
All right, Oscar, I'm resending that co-host invite. So let me know if it goes through. You can shoot me a message if something's not working. We'll figure it out. So, Katy, I have to say, while we're waiting, I can't unsee the picture you painted about Chad and and the story that you told the other day.
Mark, no, he's gonna be so mad at me.
I thought it was
When
pretty
you
funny
said, I gotta
myself.
tell you, I thought you were gonna talk about the photos I posted today, and I was like, all touch like the picture, and I'm like, yeah, and then you're like, you painted of your naked husband. I'm all, now hold on.
Yeah, I thought you were going to bring up the pictures she shot for Ivan. Those were fantastic.
Oh yeah, those pictures came out great.
Thank you. I was really excited. It was the first time with the new camera and that lens, and so I was really hoping I could get some good ones. If you stay tuned, I actually got a really cool series of Ivan armbarring someone, so you can see the setup like from
Yeah,
top
you
mount
sent that
to.
to me. That was
Oh, Jamie.
cool.
Oh
You
yeah.
sent
So
it
I'm
to
gonna.
me.
I was just say Jamie gets sneak peeks of everything. um,
I'm
but
in your fan club of photography nerds. So
thank you, thank you. So I'm gonna make a reel of it and see if I can make it kind of look like a flip book of him putting that armbar on. So we'll see. But it was really cool. It was a really cool session.
Yeah, that was awesome. I really liked the pictures that I saw. I'm looking forward to all the stuff that you've got going on. And I mean, you've been doing so much. I mean, you tell me how many how many sessions you have stacked up on one another. It's got to be quite a bit.
It is, but I truly feel blessed. I'm hoping I can get some more jiu-jitsu stuff going. I love taking portraits. I love shooting couples and grad photos and stuff like that. I absolutely do. But man, jiu-jitsu has my heart. So I'm really excited to hopefully kind of break into that scene a little bit more and start working for some organizations doing their seminar photos or competition photos. But oh man, it's been great.
Yeah, very cool. We have a few competitions coming up. I don't know if there's a huge upswing in the gym right now as far as people competing. So we'll see when maybe that'll pick up a little bit. But I'm really excited to see what you continue to do. It's really cool that you've found this whole new avenue of something that you enjoy doing.
Thank you.
Rob, what's up, man? We're still waiting. Oscar, I sent you a message. Let me know if we're having any difficulties getting the speaker going or anything like that. But we'll wait until we get you on and running.
What's up, Mark?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
Hey, Rob, thanks a lot for helping out Ty in the gym today. He really appreciated meeting you and the work that you were able to do with him.
Oh yeah, of course. Hope I found some good things.
Yeah, that was good times.
All right, so we're still waiting to get the link set up, but we can continue talking. I don't know, Jamie, if you had, me and Katie see if we can get this going. Did you have a comment on the topic today? I know I kind of just picked it up out of the blue, but this is one that I really enjoyed. Me and Jackie have been talking about it for the last couple of days.
Coaches that have really influenced you?
Yeah, coaches, teachers. I mean, anybody who's really had a big impact or influence on your life.
Well, yeah. I can't. It's hard to pin it down to one, and I'd have to say, honestly, the one of the ones that really had a big influence on me that I'm thankful to was a guy named Scott Stevenson. He was just a border patrol agent, but he's the one who actually introduced me to jiu-jitsu. Before that, I had no interest in it. I knew what it was, but I thought it was kind of a niche thing. I had an awareness of it, and it wasn't until as a use of force instructor that it was put upon me that and if it wasn't for that and him, I probably to this day, who knows if somebody else would have managed to make that invite to me to take a look at it. But it's something that's definitely changed my life. So I'd have to thank him for first of all for actually getting me off the couch, so to speak, into the game and pursuing it. But I've had a lot of people down through the years, including Sensei Oscar, that were big influences to me and have given me aspects to what I do and what I enjoy and how I look at things. And one of the things I appreciate the most of what people have given me is my ability to keep doing this, especially at 49 years old with a couple of injuries here and there and just life, because that's the hard part. Anybody can start something and do it for a while. That's unfortunately what happens with most people in martial arts. Like I've heard this from other jiu-jitsu practitioners. I think it was Hicks and Gracie said that to get one blue belt, he'd have to have about 200 students. Out of 200 students that started, for every 200 that started, like one would make it through the whole cycle. Because a lot of people come in, they go for a week, they go for 2 months, maybe they go for 6 months, and then they're gone. Maybe they stop going for a little while and they come back once or twice and then they're gone. They just go MIA on you. But he said realistically, like to all the way to black belt, it's about one in 10,000 of all the people that walk through your door. It's going to be about 1 in 10,000 that actually get all the way to black belt. Now that seems like an astronomical number to me, but maybe it's true. But that's, I think, the biggest challenge is keeping somebody in the game, and recognizing that what their game is going to be. Not everyone's going to be able to compete or want to compete. Not everyone's going to want to be able to or want to train on a higher or high intensity level, but knowing where to bring them to right to the edge of their comfort zone so they can grow, but you don't break them or drive them away.
Yeah, and that's a great point. You know, in these last few years, as I've seen people come into the gym, I think those numbers are fairly accurate. Um, and I think that's one of my I guess that's one of my goals, is to increase that retention number of people who stay on and continue to practice, finding avenues for them to feel like it's still worth their time. You know, maybe after, you have the blue belt cliche where, they say a lot of people quit after blue belt, or even just, you came to a few classes and then you don't come back. So I think, that's one of my goals in the coming years, is really trying to raise that percentage.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's tough with, especially with grappling arts. I mean, it's one thing with, and I, I, I'm really reticent to get into a kind of Chevy versus Ford thing, comparing different martial arts. But there's a lot. I think it's a lot easier. Let's just say in a 10 round gym, or a Muay Thai, or not even not a Muay Thai, but like a um, kickboxing type class where somebody's just hitting pads and they're really just pushing themselves against what they can do, as opposed to something like judo, jujitsu, sambo, wrestling, where it's hard. You're working hard. It's physically hard. It's cardiovascularly demanding, and it's something that's it's tough to learn. It's tougher for some people than others. I always marvel at the people that can see a technique once, maybe twice, try it twice, maybe 3 times, and then from that point forward, they're just honing it. I mean, for me, there's very few things that are new and novel to me that happens for. I have to see it and then try it and try it and try it and try it and get it wrong and figure out why I'm doing it wrong. And for a lot of people, like I don't. I'm one of the few advantages I have is I don't have a low frustration threshold when it comes to that. I recognize what my weaknesses are, but I see that with a lot of people. They're like, I'm not going to spend months trying to learn how to do this. This is bullshit. And they're like, yeah, this is why am I going to invest so much time in something that's going to take me months to get good at, or even not even get good at, just not horrible at. So
I'm
that's the
definitely,
hard part.
yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely one of those people who I have to do a move at least like 200 times before I can even pretend like I have it down. You know what I mean? And I think that's the mark of a really good coach. And I think that's a way that you know that they're going to have a good influence on you, is having someone who's patient. I think for me, looking at it and looking at the people who've influenced me the most, I think that patience is a key marker of a lot of those individuals. And I think it's really important to have patience as a coach and as an individual. Because you look at individuals who come into the gym, right? And like some people pick up moves like easy peasy, like they do it 1 or 2 times and then they got it and it's in their pocket forever.
Hmm.
Myself, on the other hand, I have to do it 1,000 times. And even then, sometimes if I don't drill it and I'm not drilling it constantly, I'll forget it. And I know that, so for me personally, I think that having patience and having individuals with patience is a really good marker of someone who's going to influence me. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and recognizing the abilities and of the student. Yeah, the advantage I have is once I learn something, I generally don't forget it. So as you were saying, but yeah, a really good coach is somebody that recognizes that people have different abilities and different disabilities, and people learn differently. And yeah, I have a little bit of experience in coaching and with use of force techniques and firearms, and I'm pretty good at firearms. I'm good at teaching people how to shoot, but that is that has given me a good insight into it, because that's a discipline that's 99% mental. It does not take a great amount of physical skill to shoot firearms, almost on any level, unless you're talking like IPSC competition or like tactical run and gun type stuff. But it's sight alignment, trigger control, and trigger press is like anywhere from a pound and a half to maybe 7-8 pounds at the most. An infant can. That's why you keep guns out of the hands of children, because an infant can pull the trigger on one. But it's mental. It's getting them to do about 4 different things all at once, and they have
But
to
Hey
be
guys,
done.
sorry I'm
That's
late.
Yeah, that's the hard part. And if you leave one of them out, it doesn't work. It's not like an armbar where it's like, hey, that was kind of good, but you didn't put your feet together. You didn't squeeze your knees, but you kind of just pulled it off. If you don't do them all simultaneously and all within like 90% proficiency, it's not going to work. The cool part about it is there's no magic. If the sights are aligned and if your trigger control is good, it's going to hit the target every single time.
Absolutely. And it looks like we have Oscar now. Hello, hello. Glad to see the mic is working.
Yeah, a little tech slow tonight, so bear with me a little bit.
no, that's awesome, man. Thank you for sticking with it and thank you for jumping on with us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys.
Yes, of course. So, I mean, you said you could hear us, so you kind of heard what we were talking about. But I mean, we definitely wanted to bring you on tonight to hear a little bit about you. I know you've been in the martial arts game here in Southern New Mexico for quite a while, and I love all your students. I've had the opportunity to train with, a lot of them, and hopefully, I can share some of those stories later. But if you can kind of introduce yourself and let us know what you have going on here in the coming weeks, we can take it from there.
Oh yeah. Well, we have lots of stuff going on as always, but my name is Oscar Tinajero. I'm a 6th-degree black belt in judo, and trained in various other martial arts. Um, but I've been doing martial arts for 35 years and still going, so not too beat up, not too bad. But yeah, we got lots of stuff going. We're hosting the New Mexico State Judo Games coming up here in June. Because that's the big qualifier for before nationals. So we're trying to get all our kiddos from New Mexico qualified for nationals. So that'll be a big tournament going on at Oregon Mountain High School here on June 11th.
Yeah, and that's something I know when we spoke, you said that kind of hit a few roadblocks with COVID and lockdowns and stuff like that. And I don't want to downplay. You've been quite influential in getting those games going again, especially like you said for the kids who practice and want to compete.
Right. We haven't been able to do a tournament since 2019, unfortunately, and of course, for safety and things like that. But and it's been good and bad, and the time off has allowed us to prepare and kind of do a better tournament. But at the same time, one of the unfortunate things is in 2018 and 19, some of the children, that were state champions from my team qualified for nationals. And then, of course, if they would have been able to compete in nationals, they would have gone on to the Junior Olympics. And so my goddaughter was one of them that, she's a 3-time state champion in judo. Looking forward to going to nationals and then eventually to the Junior Olympics. But now, because of COVID, since we haven't been able to compete, she actually aged out, so she's not able to go to the Junior Olympics because she's an adult now. So it's an unfortunate thing, but she's okay with it, and now she's competing as an adult. She competed at the Lone Star tournament for the very first time in both the adult division and the black belt division. So she had a very positive experience and a very good learning experience. So it was pretty awesome.
That's great, man. And it's just been a joy to watch her kind of grow as a martial artist. We've been open for about 2.5 years, and I know you reached out to us right away as soon as we opened and invited us over to some open mats, and you came over to see us. So that's all greatly appreciated. And just seeing her grow up and grow into a really nice adult martial artist with a lot of potential, man. Kudos to you and the school over there.
Yeah, I'd like to give her a hard time because I always tell people that she fired me because I was pretty much instructing all the classes at my dojo, which I've always done. But when I got hit with COVID, I was down for quite a while, and one of the biggest things that caused me stress is how is the dojo going to survive, how it's going to run, and she stepped up and basically took over my position. And funny thing, I was gone for almost 6 months. And when I came back, I didn't recognize any of the kids. And of course, she had already taken over. So I came back and I said, okay, ready to get on the mat. And she kind of looked at me and was like, yeah, we got it. Don't worry about it. And and so I always joke with her that she fired me from my teaching position, but it's actually been a good thing just because it's allowed me to do other things as far as my personal training in martial arts. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is, man. And it's, having that help is great. I know we've had, Jamie stepped on the mat with us, helped us out with the kiddos. And we've talked about it time and time again. Training the kids is what makes it worth it. And to see that growth, now she's not only growing as a martial artist, she's growing as a leader. And, it's just amazing to see the kids grow up and step into those roles.
Yeah, definitely. And I know one of the topic that we were talking about was just who was influential in my martial arts career, and that's one of the things that I always kind of try to give back because my first sensei, Mr. Bentley, he um, he taught us a lot of things about being leaders and just being good people all the way around, but also about giving back. And with him, he was originally he was a priest, and then came out of the priesthood and then went into teaching, and he was a teacher in my high school. And at the time I didn't really have a lot of direction and didn't know what I was going to do, and so he kind of provided good mentorship and good advice. So I always think back of the things that he would do for us and kind of try to pass it on to all these kids that we have here now. So he did quite a bit for me as a youngster.
One of the cool things, and especially about this topic, is you never know who you're going to influence or how much you're going to influence them. And I stopped trying to guess a long time ago. I was in training for years. I worked in the field with Department of Health, actually, with Randy, who trains with you. He's, I consider him a very good friend of mine, and I believe he's a brown belt under you, isn't he?
Yes, that's correct. He's going to be testing for black here in October.
That is, that's awesome, and I would love to be a part of that. If see that and watch that, because we started our martial arts journey at the same time, and we were in the same field. We worked with people with disabilities. Randy's been in that field for decades now, and he's done so much for that community. But it's really awesome to kind of see him go through judo as I've gone through jiu-jitsu, and share those stories. But shout out to him if he's listening or if he replays. But he's definitely a really good guy.
Yeah, and Randy's been putting in a lot of hard work, and you know, he he came into our dojo, with a great attitude and just ready to work, and he wanted to kind of fill in the pieces that he was missing, because he knew he's a good judo practitioner, but he knew he had some holes, and he came in and asked some really smart questions, and we started training. Of course, my other training partner Joe. We all started kind of training together and moving forward.
You know,
Um,
Joe's another one who I met in the field working with adults with disabilities. Met him early on. He was doing behavioral therapy for some of my clients, and he's another great guy who's also he's a black belt, right?
Yeah, and actually, he's going to be testing at the same time with Randy. Joe's actually testing for his third degree, um, so he's done well too. So he's working hard. They're both working real hard. So that's great.
That's awesome. What kind of goes into, the testing? Because I know we're a little different as far as jiu-jitsu and how we promote. And I know judo has a long-standing tradition, so to some of the people who don't understand, what goes into testing for these belts?
A lot of it. The first we have 10 black belts total in the system, and like the first three is just a really physical test. You have to know your throwing and your takedowns and things like that. There's groundwork too that we do in judo, but then for every level of black belt, you have to know a kata or a form, and I think that's one of the biggest things. That's the hardest thing with the testing, only because most judo players don't like to do kata, and they don't put a lot into it until it's like the day before the test. And so it's kata, in my opinion, judo kata is very boring, and it's slow and it's tedious, but it's a good way to train your mind and to to learn about universal principles of throwing and grappling. But there's not a lot of interest in it, and we're actually one of the few schools that actually studies kata, along with, of course, the core throwing techniques of judo. But the first three belts, it's just very physical. Fourth and fifth degree has to do a lot with if you're instructing, and you're developing your club and developing your players. Sixth, seventh, and eighth is one that they look at. There's not really a physical test. It's more of a service to the art. So they look at, have you been involved in the art? Have you been doing, putting on tournaments, refereeing, coaching, and things like that, putting on clinics. And I'll tell you what I had to do for my sixth degree is I actually had to write a thesis on a specialized area of judo. And it was critiqued by a panel of 12 other black belts higher than me. And they're pretty hard on me, but I like to stir the pot. And I wrote I wrote about something that they're not very familiar with, and so then they try to throw me off with certain questions that they didn't know the answer to. So I made a lot of waves in our organization, and I ended up getting my belt because of the subject that I wrote about, which is actually kind of funny because the subject that I wrote about was ground techniques. So it was very interesting.
Nice. Now, forgive my Japanese because it's not good at all. But is that newaza?
Yes. So the focus on my paper was on what we call katami waza, which encompasses the ground techniques. Newaza along with that. But yeah, the people that read my paper had a lot of questions, only because they kind of feel like judo's like the only grappling art, and they don't kind of study anything else. So I've been lucky enough to be able to to train and speak to a variety of grapplers, not just judo people, but grapplers of every kind from almost every grappling art. So through that experience of just speaking to people, training with people, it allowed me to write a pretty good paper and kind of prove what I was saying was correct.
That's awesome, man, and that really warms my heart because I know Rob is on here. Rob's a judo black belt, and Jamie knows, and everybody knows. I poke fun a lot at judo, but I absolutely love it. It's where jiu-jitsu comes from. We wouldn't have it without judo. And
I miss judo.
yeah,
So
you have,
Oscar, my sensei, I don't know if you ever met, I think you met him before, was Al Zamaripa. Did you ever meet
Yeah,
him?
I know Mr. Zamarita very well.
Yeah, so Mrs. Zamaripa is the one who gave me my black belt, and unfortunately he died in November, but I trained with him since I was 8 years old until our class got shut down. But I really do miss judo. I always tell Mark and Spencer how much I miss judo and throwing people.
Yeah, Rob, you had told a story about training at the rec center over there on Bell Street. And funny thing too is I went over there one day to actually talk to Mr. Zamaripa, and he and the young lady that worked the front desk were like heated up, man. They were aggravated, and I asked them what was going on, and some sort of, I don't know if it was a dance group or somebody had actually stolen the mats. They had pulled them out the back door and loaded them into a truck and drove off with them. So the judo classes didn't have mats.
Yeah, our mats always got messed with over there. Like they were used for other things. You're gonna laugh at this and be sad. During the summer program, they used our mats as slip and slides.
Right. Yeah, I heard that on your interview. That was, and that's crazy. That drives me nuts, just because in any grappling art, your mats are they're like gold. You have to have good mats, and
And
it's rough.
And I was able to jack some of them when our class got shut down. So they're in Mark's garage right now.
Yeah, I've got
Nice.
it here. You That's really
So
cool. Oscar, one of the things that we talked about when we met a couple of weeks ago was you've been in the game for so long, and you remember the early days of martial arts in Las Cruces when there weren't, a lot of black belts. There weren't even a lot of brown or purple belts, maybe. And I know you guys just had Tim Cartmel come through, also, right?
Yeah, he was here in town for the weekend with us.
Yeah, and so Tim, I think he came in and brought like some of the first jujitsu into Las Cruces, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because everybody that I've ever trained with in judo, I call them sensei, whatever, my sensei, Sensei Bentley. I've trained with a lot of people, and it's funny because Tim, he's a fifth degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and and I've always called him Tim, and he actually prefers that, and he's kind of a funny guy, but he he actually started in a kung fu style, and in the 80s, and lived in Taiwan and China and all that, and was actually a full contact champion out there, doing those kung fu styles like Sanso and things like that, and fighting with the wushu guys out there. And he came back to California in the like late 80s, early 90s, when the Gracies were there. And so, being a kung fu guy and a full contact guy, he was like, oh, this grappling stuff ain't gonna work. And of course, just usual thing, that happens. You get taken down, you don't know what to do. And so Tim is very inquisitive. So he just engulfed himself in grappling, and he had kung fu students here in the area in Las Cruces and Silver City. And so, because he was doing so much jujitsu, and the kung fu guys down here were just doing kung fu, he'd come down here and he'd do they have takedowns in kung fu, so that he would do a takedown, but then he would do a mount and choke him out or do something like that. And these kung fu guys were like, what in the world, like, what are you doing, like, who was this, like a secret kung fu technique that we didn't know about? Um and it just baffled them. So Tim ended up telling his Las Cruces kung fu students that they should find some sort of judo or jiu-jitsu club to train the ground. Um, so some of his students approached me when we were at New Mexico State University, asking if we would show them how to do groundwork. And the funny thing about that is that during that time, judo, and I was competing really heavily in judo. If you get a good solid throw, the match is over, so you don't have to do ground. So judo groundwork was not something that was really emphasized in my club when I was training, and definitely when I was at NMSU, we rarely did it. But we knew how to do some pins and some strangulations and things, but we didn't really train it. And so when these kung fu guys approached us, we showed them just a couple of techniques. It wasn't anything effective really, but they said that their instructor was going to come down, and at the time Tim was a blue belt. He came down and he did a seminar, and he just sparred with everybody and tapped everybody out in the room. um, and there was 40 or 50 of us in there, and to me it baffled me because Tim, when you look at him, he's a solid 125 pounds. At the time when I was competing at 185. And I was pretty solid at that time, and I could not believe it that he was just tapping everybody so easily. So we had him a few more times, and he did more clinics. And at that time, he actually promoted some blue belts here in the area at the time, and made some of the first blue belts. And and really, this is kind of my bad thing, is I never really kept up with him. Like, he would come down and do seminars for us, but I never really went over to California and really pursued, training with him a little more. But looking back on it, I really should have, because, Tim, like I said, he's a fifth degree now, and he's just a wealth of knowledge as far as martial arts go. And certainly he's been a big influence here. I don't think he's realized how much of an influence he is down here in the southern New Mexico area. But we're gonna have him down in September again, and hopefully, we're gonna put on a little bit of a bigger clinic with him. So, but like I said, he's a great guy, and he's got lots of stories too. So he's fun to talk to.
That would be cool, and I would really like to meet him. I know I wasn't able to go to the last one, but if he's coming back in the fall, I would really like to, get some time on the mat with him, hear his stories, because I heard the same as you just told. He made some of the first blue belts around here, and that's really cool as far as we're talking about Las Cruces in this area. Because back then having a blue belt was like having a superpower.
Right.
There weren't a lot of blue belts in jiu-jitsu around, and you could pretty much have your way with people.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny, like you said, the people you meet and the things that happen during that time when Tim was coming down as a blue belt. One of the second or third times he came down, right around that time is when it must have been the third or fourth UFC had gone on, and I may be wrong on the UFC, but basically it was the UFC where Royce Gracie fought Kimo Leopoldo.
Oh yeah,
and it kind of held on by his ponytail, and eventually beat him. But Tim came down and he's like, "Hey man," he goes, "check out this picture of me and this weird tattooed guy." And I was like, "Who is this?" And so basically, after Hoist beat Kimo, Kimo went to Tim's school to learn jujitsu and was there for a long time, learning jujitsu from Tim's instructor. And so Kimo Leopoldo was like a regular sparring partner for Tim as he was progressing through his jujitsu journey.
wow, that is a very cool story. Never heard that one, and I absolutely love it. That's very cool. I've got one more. It's awesome how we kind of stayed on the topic, and how you don't know who you're going to influence, or you don't know who you're going to, in your journey, how you're going to help people. But the first martial arts class that I ever took in Las Cruces was from Sensei Robert Garcia, who I know you've trained with. And I worked with him and got invited to a class. And that was my first ever class, was a judo class from him. And then years later, when I really got into jiu-jitsu and martial arts, it was because of your students, I think Daniel and a few other people who were at the bodybuilding gym, One More Rep,
Oh
before you
yeah, cool.
up.
Yeah, and it's funny because Robert, he was a great judo player, and when I started judo, we had a judo club in high school, and so when I started judo in high school, I believe he was already a brown belt, and he was kind of assisting in the instruction of class and doing a lot of things. So, to me, he was one of my like mentors when I first started. And me and a group of guys from my high school, we kind of went, um, and he would, toss us around and do all kinds of stuff with us. But Robert, of course, I didn't know this at the time, and I didn't find out until years later. But Robert was not just, a great brown belt in judo. He was actually on the wrestling team at Gadsden High School, and he held a lot of powerlifting records back then in our high school. And so, he was a strong guy. He knew judo really well, and he and I actually were kata partners. I did in judo kata. You can, like in karate, you can do kata by yourself. You only need the one person. In judo kata, you have to have somebody to throw. So I was his partner for his black belt test, and in turn, he was actually my partner for my black belt test. So I actually have a picture of me getting thrown in a fireman's carry throw by him, and we actually knocked a heater off of the ceiling at another dojo that used to be in Las Cruces. So it's kind of a funny picture because the picture looks great, but in the long run, I almost broke my foot knocking the heater off the ceiling.
Man, that's awesome. And again, another good story. Robert was a great guy. God bless his soul, man. I just knew him from work, and he was an all around, just, good guy, had a great outlook on life, wasn't ever negative. I never guessed that the guy at the time was, uh, as good at martial arts as he was. And again, at the time, I had absolutely zero experience in martial arts. So I was amazed when I saw him, rolling people up in that class.
Yeah, we went to a tournament one time at Hayashi's Martial Arts in El Paso, and there was a guy out there who was visiting, and he came to the tournament because he wanted to. I guess he wanted to fight with different people, and he was kind of complaining that he was I don't know if he was from Colorado or Utah. He was something of he claimed to be a jiu-jitsu champion, and he was griping to Sensei Hayashi about how he wants to fight a black belt and somebody worthy of his skill and whatnot. And um, they didn't have any heavyweights in the tournament, and Robert and I actually just were happened to be walking by, and typical Robert, in character for him, this guy's griping and saying, I'm this and that and the other, and I want to fight a real black belt, and Robert just kind of walked up to him and said, yeah, I'll fight you, and Sensei Hayashi was like, yeah, look, let's do it. And at the time, at Sensei Hayashi's old dojo, he used to have a deck outside, and they would put the mats outside, and it was a beautiful deck with a pond, and it was an awesome place. And Robert went out there to spar with this gentleman, and kind of tossed him all over the place. And Robert had this throw that he liked to do on people that he didn't like, and and we in the clubs kind of knew it because he's a heavy guy, and we have judo throws where you land on people. Well, this particular one, he put it on that guy and landed on him, and I think they cracked that deck. And he beat the guy pretty well, and afterwards he was just like, I can't believe it, you're like nobody, and you beat me, and the guy still left like aggravated and insulted, I guess. But afterwards, Robert was like, if that guy's a jiu-jitsu world champion, then what does that make me? And, and so I was like, I have no idea, but it was just fun to see, that stuff. And, I look back at it fondly, and remember Robert all the time.
What throw was it?
The throw was actually Hane Makikomi. So Hane Makikomi is in the English translation, it's a springing wraparound throw. So if you can imagine somebody wrapping you around their body and springing up into the air and doing a shoulder roll and then landing on you.
Oof.
So yeah, that was his favorite throw. So I know this because he liked to train it on me. So, but no, I like I said, Robert was never a dull moment with him for sure.
I had the honor of meeting Sensei Garcia, and he was a really good instructor to me too.
That's awesome. Small world, huh?
Oh, that's for sure. We cross paths with a lot of people that sometimes we don't really think about it, but it's always interesting.
It is, man. Oscar, man, Sensei Oscar, I want to thank you for stopping by, for sharing these stories. It was honestly amazing. I loved it. Just hearing about martial arts, because I've only been in it for so long. Hearing about, how it was, in the years before I got into it, and you guys who kind of paved the way for the people who are practicing in town now, which is absolutely amazing. One more time, you've got that tournament coming up June 11th, right? At Oregon Mountain High School.
Yes, sir. We have the New Mexico State Judo Games coming up, and then I'll be actually doing a clinic here sometime on judo takedowns and throws here to be determined, because after this tournament I need a vacation, so I'll be gone for about a week in July, but soon after that I plan to do a clinic because we're moving into a bigger space, so we'll actually be able to do a proper clinic for judo throwing.
That'll be great. I'm really looking forward to that one. And you guys, Katy, Jamie, Rob, thank you guys so much for participating. If you have any more questions or comments, please feel free, man. Lines are open.
Actually, yeah. So I have a question. So Oscar, so I haven't competed since like 2008 or 2009. How much of the rules have changed since then? I think the last time I competed was like at that Albuquerque tournament that was always at the Rio Rancho High School.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, one of the biggest things, and it aggravates me to no end, is that in judo they don't allow you to do any type of throwing technique below the belt. And what I mean by that is, like, if you wanted to do a double leg takedown, that's illegal in judo.
Yeah,
Um, and then like a fireman's carry throw, if you hook the leg with your hand, that's illegal, which is kind of silly because all those throws are actually in the core throwing in
hmm,
judo, but you can't do them. And I think, and again, this is just my opinion, but it was funny just because of the rise of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of people cross-train, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys were doing wrestling. They were doing judo tournaments, and so a lot of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu players who had great work ethic and were going to these judo tournaments and doing double leg takedowns and things like that to these judo players and winning tournaments. And then all of a sudden they came up with this rule that you can't do anything below the belt with your hands, and which is kind of silly because to me, if judo players are losing to double leg takedowns, then learn how to defend against the double leg
yeah,
takedown.
yeah,
The other thing, the major changes that we've had though too, is that they changed our hold down time. Um, in judo, of course, if you pin somebody down for a certain amount of time, you win.
hmm,
And when I was younger, when I was competing heavily, it was 30 seconds. If you can hold somebody 30 seconds, you win. And
yeah.
now they dropped it to 20. So
Oh
it's
wow.
either 10 seconds for a half and then half point and 20 seconds for a full point. So, I mean, 20 seconds is not a lot of time to,
Mm-mm.
if you're getting pinned down to get an escape, but it makes things a little easier too. If you got somebody in a pin, 20 seconds is not too bad.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the 30 seconds. It seems like forever when you're on the ground, but
Yeah.
when you're being
Oh,
pinned. But yeah, cool. Well, I'll be interested in in your seminar whenever you have it. If you'll have me at your dojo.
yeah, for sure. And, come compete in the judo games. I guarantee you'll have a great time out there.
I'd be down to. I haven't competed in over 10 years, but yeah, I'll do it. I'm a heavyweight now, so if you have any
Well,
heavyweights, I'll go up against them.
yeah, we do. We for sure. We got a few registered right now, so it should be a good tournament.
Cool. All right.
And we had talked, Oscar. You said that the Judo Association, or correct me if I'm wrong, but the organizing body has made it a little bit easier for people who haven't necessarily competed seriously in judo to join and compete in the association this year, right?
Yeah, that's one of the good things that the United States Judo Association did. In any sanctioned judo tournament, you of course pay your entry fee, but you also have to be part of that organization because they provide liability insurance in case anyone gets hurt and things like that. So normally with that, you pay anywhere between 50 and $75 a year, but and which is all great for judo players, but some of our other martial artists, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, sambo, even wrestlers want to compete in judo, but they don't want to pay for a year-long membership to a judo organization, if they're going to do one tournament. So what the USJA has done is that they'll give you like a kind of like I call it a weekend pass. It's a 10-day pass. You pay, I think it's like $10, and your liability insurance is good for 10 days. So that's kind of neat because you're not committed to the year and spending $75. You can spend your $10 plus the entry fee and still compete for that particular tournament. And then if you decide you like it, then and you want to join for the year, you can. But it makes it a little bit easier because I know a lot of people want to compete, but they don't want to. And sometimes it's a lot of money too, between $65 entry fee and $75 insurance, and that's a lot of money. So it makes it a little easier for people.
Hey, yeah, they're still picky on the geese.
Yes, the gis they have very specific rules for it. I know like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gis are a little more streamlined, a little bit tighter on the body. So judo gis are a little bit more baggy.
Hmm.
So they kind of check for that. They actually have a tool that looks like a pair of salad tongs that they'll use it to measure like your sleeves and your collars and things like that. We're not that strict on it, but we do require, the only thing we require for our tournaments, you have to have a white uniform. It can't be any
cool.
type of colored uniform. But even though the judo does allow blue uniforms, you can only wear the blue uniforms if you're on the blue side of the competition area. So, but I always tell people just get a white uniform because you can be on either side and you're good with a white uniform. So.
Oh, cool. Well, lucky for me, Mark ordered some white judo gis by mistake.
No, it's interesting, man. And we have something similar with jiu-jitsu, the IBJJF, that requires you pay an annual membership, and they're really strict. But
Oh yeah, you talk about strict on uniforms. I don't know if you heard what happened to us in Vegas in November.
Yeah, you've already had some issues with IBJJF, and as far
Yeah,
as
mine passed the first time round, but then Itza's, and it was minimal. And they have a goofy tool. I've seen the salad tongs one Sensei Oscar's talking about. They have a different one. It slides up your sleeve, and if there's any resistance, like it has to go all the way up your arm, and then it checks the thickness of the lapel. I actually, after that adventure, I actually bought one of the things. It was about $60 for this big chunk of plastic, because if any of us go again, like you line up, you wait, and then they check your fingernails, your toenails. I got sent back for fingernails, and it was like my fingernails are never long. I
yeah,
was they're super strict.
That's interesting, Jamie. And it's funny. My good friend Jimmy Pedro, he's the Olympic judo coach. He was telling me that he would get his gis and take them to his neighborhood tailor, and they would get that tool, and whatever the minimum, like however close he could get to the minimum, he would get out there and have his tailor like stitch his gi like to the bare minimum where it could pass, and so you could
Yeah,
compete, have an advantage. So that's
I'd
interesting.
I'd be nervous flying that close to the sun, because they don't care. It's you're done.
Yeah.
And even the nogi events, they're pretty strict. I saw a guy get sent back because he had, of course, your rash guard has to match your rank, and it has to have a certain number of square inches of coverage of the appropriate color. But some guy had shorts and they weren't crazy ostentatious. They had flames on them. They were like, nope, out of here. And he's like, I don't have any other shorts. They're like, okay, you're done. And he's like running around the bullpen trying to borrow shorts from somebody. And fortunately, some dude was like, here, I got a pair of black shorts. And here he is changing out right there in front of everybody, into a different pair of shorts.
Yeah, I've seen that in MMA a lot, where you guys are borrowing
Yeah.
equipment and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always good to have extra stuff. And I'm learning now as a coach, because you never know what's going to happen, and you always want to have extra of pretty much everything. So,
Yep.
Jamie, thanks for buying that tool. If any of us go to the federation
Yeah,
again.
it's hanging in my closet. I meant to take it into the gym, but whenever any of us are going IBJFF, we could check all our gis before we go.
Nice. So, Katy, I know we haven't had you on too much today, but if you had a response to the topic today, I would love to hear it, because I know Oscar's, Sensei Oscar's talked about some of the people that have influenced him. Again, you never know how much or when you're going to influence someone. So if you had a comment on the topic, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. First, I would like to say I've literally just been sitting here, like, trying to absorb all of this judo information like a little sponge. I am a brown belt in karate, and I love kata, and I had no idea that judo had kata, and it was so wildly different. So that's really cool to learn. I like to pick Robert's brain on judo as much as I can, so now I have more things to bother him about. So appreciate that. For who I guess has influenced me the most, I would definitely say my sensei back in Silver City really influenced me a lot. I know we had spoken about this probably on Wednesday, I want to say, but coaches and senseis and just instructors in general have a huge impact on kids' lives. And for me personally, I did not have a super duper easy childhood, and I was going through karate as a kiddo while my dad had cancer. And so for me personally, my sensei, he's actually Hanshi now. He went above and beyond always. And that's something I will always remember. There were days where, my mom would be late coming to pick me up because she was at work. She was working full time. She had to take my dad to doctor's appointments, and none of my siblings could drive at that point. And he would sit there and wait for me, and he never made me feel bad about that. And it's so funny that I very specifically remember that, because sometimes, man, I'd be there for 45 minutes overtime, and we would just sit and we'd talk and we'd laugh and we'd joke around, and it was always like he appreciated having me there, not that I was taking up space or making him late to things. So for me personally, I would say definitely my personal karate instructor, Hanshi Dave Richardson, is an amazing individual. So that would be my answer to who's influenced me the most.
That's cool. And again, working with the kids, I just, all these kids walking through the door. I know Oscar and I talked about the kids class, and it's you never know how what a kid is struggling with or what they may be going through, and how just that 1 hour may make a difference in their life. So it's really cool to be part of something like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a funny story that won't take too much time, but you guys are close to the Mesilla Park Rec Center. I used to go over there and assist another instructor in his judo classes, and there would be this family that would come in every day, and it was a little boy and little girl, and then they had a kind of a teenage son that would kind of come in behind them, and the little boy and little girl would do judo classes, but the teenager would just kind of sit there, and he always looked like he wanted to do it, but he never would. And one day, the family was leaving and they all got in the van, but the teenager didn't, and they drove off. So I'm freaking out thinking, hey, they left this like 12, 13-year-old kid behind. They didn't even notice. And so I'm like trying to flag them down. And then this 12-year-old, 13-year-old disappears. And I was like, what in the world just happened? Like, did they just leave their kid somewhere? Did it get kidnapped, or what's going on? And couldn't find them. And the next judo class, here comes this family and this kid. And so I kind of waited after class, and the same thing happened as this family went in. They got in their van and left, and this kid walked into a house across the street. And so what I found out after speaking to this kid is that he wanted to do judo classes, but his mother, who was a single parent, couldn't afford it. And so what he would do is he would sneak in with this other family, like he was part of the family, and watch the judo class and kind of absorb information, and then go home and like try it out by himself at home. And so finally I just told him, dude, like, if you want to do class, just, I'll pay for your class. Um, and so we got him started, and, he was kind of a goofy kid. And when he was around 13 at the time, so right around the time he graduated high school, he was around 17, 18. He told me, he goes, Sensei, I'm joining the Marine Corps. And my first thought was like, oh God, like this kid is, I don't know, I wasn't too sure. But he went, and he did well in the Marine Corps, and served. He did some tours in the Middle East, and stayed safe and came back in one piece. And he's another one that's actually going to be testing with Randy for his black belt in October.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it's interesting. He's been doing judo with me for 23 years.
That is very cool. We see a lot of kids that maybe, sometimes they don't want to be there. Maybe their parents just want them to be doing part of something active. And it's really awesome when you get the kids and the adults that really want to learn. And that's a beautiful story that you shared, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I always joke with everyone because I've been around it so long, and I have so many stories that I always tell people, because they'll start texting me, and I'm not too much of a tech guy, and I always tell people, if you want to hear stories, just come to my house. I have a big porch, and we can sit out there all night and talking about this stuff. And I think Randy and Joe are one of the first ones that hit me up on that, because of course we all have our war stories, but then we also have our martial arts stories where we've affected people's lives. So it's always fun to exchange those stories.
Man, that's really cool. Make sure to let me know when that next session is, because I would love to be a fly on the wall. I know I've had the pleasure of working with both Randy and Joe, and they're, I mean, amazing people, amazing martial artists. So, you know, what you're doing up the hill over there is awesome, and I'm glad you're moving on to bigger spaces, and I'm really, really happy for all you're doing for the community and for judo down here in the South, because, you know, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, and I appreciate you guys too. You know, I keep saying I have to get out there more. I always tell Spencer that I'm going to go and give him a hard time, and my time is always so weird because I'm always going, but eventually, you know, I'll make it out there, and hopefully, you know, you all will come out once we get settled in this new spot and come out and do some training with us.
That would be awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to it. One more time, Oscar, Sensei Oscar from Legacy, thank you so much for coming out, you know, stepping on the mat, and hopefully we'll get to actually step on the physical mat here real soon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Jamie, Katy, wonderful as always. Rob, thank you so much.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you at the state games, Oscar.
All right, we'll see you then.
Thank you, Sensei Oscar.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Awesome, guys. Have a good night. Peace.
Take care.